Greetings. This is Arvette McLean of Speak, the Universe Listens.
We cherish that. We love that particular piece of it because it
teach people like, hey, it's okay, change.
New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
To today's episode of Speak, the Universe Listens. And today's topic is your thinking blocking your success? And I have Stephen joining me.
Hey everybody. I'm good.
Good. So I did want to open up again, just reiterating our intent to talk about redefining common thinking.
Right.
So that's really what we're doing, is we're redefining common thinking because throughout our entire lives there's certain ways that we tend to think about life. And those ways don't always work for us. Sometimes they do, but sometimes we can do things differently and we would have a much greater, better, a more enjoyable
life.
And so really just breaking down some of the concepts that we typically use in terms of switching out from our old way of thinking to a way of thinking that, like you said, causes us to have such a beautiful life. And so part of that is recognizing our connection to all that is.
That's one. That's one big one.
Yes, that's a huge thing. It's just really to realize that we are more than our physical bodies and that we radiate outward to infinity, and knowing that we can tap into the power of the universe at any time. We just have to know how to do that. And so the more we learn, the more we practice tapping into that force, the easier our lives become. And so today's topic is the way we think, is that blocking our success?
I would say yes. Throughout the spiritual journey and just growing, and every day I'm growing, but I learned that there is no success behind continuously doing the exact same thing over and over again, because I noticed every time, and growing up with the things that I was taught, I got to a point as to where this isn't working for me. And I kept asking questions, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, well, what resonates with me? So when I figured out what resonated with me and with my energy and my spirit and my journey, just all in general, I figured out that I had to do something different. I had to break away from the things that I was so used to and what I knew to be true. When I broke away from it and I figured out, I said, you know what? Let's try this right here, because apparently, I've been on this path and it's just not resonating with my spirit. And when I did, it was like, okay. And so I think that with a lot of people that's going to be on their journey, the spiritual journey, everything is going to resonate with them differently, And I feel like you would know what is right for you because you would just feel it. You'll have the sense of saying, wow, this feels right to me, And I think a lot of people are scared because it's something new, You're breaking away from the norm of what you know to stepping into unknown territory, which is sort of scary, and it's scary for anybody. It's like you don't know how to swim, and your first time swimming, you're not gonna be so comfortable. So for the most part, yes, breaking away from what you know and trying to step into new grounds of territory and see how that works for you. Because we all know that if you have been doing something continuously over and over again and you have not seen no results, it's time to do something new. It is time to do something new.
I would agree. And I think one of the common thinking things that we hear a lot
Right.
is people will say, follow your gut, follow your instinct, that type of thing. Your first mind is your right mind.
Right.
And I agree with that, right? But I think that most of us aren't hearing. That's true. Follow your gut, follow your instinct, follow your intuition, if you can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most of us can't because there's so much chatter
Right.
going on. And so when we make choices, a lot of times we're choosing from habit. We're choosing from this is the way we've always done things.
Mm-hmm.
We're choosing from fear. So it's not necessarily, our first thought is not necessarily the thought of our higher mind or of our higher self. And so, like, an example would be, I know a good example for me was, I always, not always, but at some point in my life, I decided I wanted to go to all 7 continents.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had been to 6, and the 7th one was Antarctica.
Right.
And so for my birthday, my husband had, got a trip for me to go to Antarctica. And so when I looked at it, it was like you had to get on this boat,
Right.
a small boat. And when I say boat, I mean, they call it a cruise, but it's not like a cruise ship. Like,
Right.
we think of cruise ship, we think of a
Massive ship.
Yeah, but I think it will hold like 40 people.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm going to get on a boat and go to this place where it's icebergs and
Right.
in this little ship. And then honestly, part of my biggest reservation was that with it being so few people, that I was gonna have to talk to the people.
And you want to talk to them?
Yeah, that's like where I shy away from
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So that was really a huge part of it. But the point is, my first instinct is no.
No.
That was my first mind.
Right.
So I was like, how else can I get there? Can I fly? Let's take a plane. There's no airports in Antarctica. Like, So it shut down the possibility of me completing one of the things that was on my bucket list because my first mind said no.
Right. I can see that. I can see that.
So, but really my first mind was fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of times we do that. Our first mind, the first voice or the first instinct that we get is a voice of fear or a voice of, this is how I always do it. My peeps, we don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not jumping out of a plane.
Right.
Or any number of things. But yeah, I think a lot of times we can confuse our first mind
Mm-hmm.
because that's just the chatter, the habit, and the fear. And
Yeah, I can see that. One thing I can say, like my experience. Let's just say I'll give an example. With using my intuition, like following, my spirit. So, on my journey, I sit back and what really made me switch my thinking and my belief for myself was that first it was fear, it was the fear of, okay, I'm leaving something that I was so used to, and I grew up with it, and now I'm switching to something that, a lot of people gonna look at you like you a little crazy, like, hold up, wait a minute. But what really resonated with me was I was like, you know what? I feel like it's right for me, and the fear part and what other people thought, that went out the window. And when I felt like it was right for me, just in general, I really felt it. I said, okay, I'm gonna go with it. So I would tell anybody sometimes, if you feel it and you just know that that's right, and you're not going off of the fear of how you feel. You know, you're not going off of what somebody else may think about you. You know, you just doing it because you know that that feels right for you. And sometimes we can't overthink things. You know, sometimes we may say, you know what, I'm gonna take this route to work today, right? And then you take that route to work, but in the back of your mind, you're like, I think I'm gonna go this way. And then you go the other way, your second thought. As soon as you go your second thought, instead of taking your first thought, then you stuck in traffic. But then if you went the other way, you would have been to work already by now, you know. So I think sometimes we listen to our intuition, but we don't listen to it, you know, because we it's almost like force. It's like a tug of war. It's like we want to listen, but then we want to see the other possibilities, you know. So I think it's a learning process, though. It's really a learning process.
That's what I would say too, because I think for me, it was like I don't know which voice
Right.
that I'm supposed to be listening to, and so the process, I think, is to learn the voice. Right? You have to learn the voice of your higher power, of your higher self.
Yeah.
And so you learn the voice the same way that, you know, if I want to develop a relationship with you, there's some things I have to do. So I would have to, one, get your attention. Like I'd have to maybe let my intuition know that, you know what, I want to start hearing you. I want to listen to you when you talk to me. And so a lot of times, as you were just alluding to, your intuition is always talking to you, but you may not listen to it. And so now, if I'm talking to you, and you're talking back to me, but whatever you're saying, I'm not listening to you, how much more are you going to keep talking to me? You know?
Right.
So we need to nurture it. We need to listen to it, respect it.
Correct.
You know, respect it. Love on it.
Right. If anything, that's one of the biggest ones. Love on it. You know, I had to really learn that sometimes you really need to listen to your intuition, because it's almost like it's your compass. You know, it's guiding you. You know, and we take it for granted because we're like, I'm gonna go with this thought because this, you know, let's try this over here instead of listening to my intuition. And then the moment that we do, then we're like, dang. You know, so I think it's important that we love on it and nurture it.
Yes, and I find that the more attention I give it, the more attention it seems to give me. Now, I know that that's probably not true. Like, I know that it's always present for us. It's always there. There's always a whispering. But sometimes we're just too much going on. We're too much in our heads. We got too much out there that we're focused on, and we cannot hear the voice of our intuition. And so, of course, in order to hear it, we have to start quieting the chatter in our own minds, and learning how to recognize that voice from the voice of fear, the voice of habit, the voice of complacency. And like you just said, when you are in touch with your guidance, your intuition, when you're in touch with it, it's going to feel right to you.
Yeah, you're going to know.
You're going to know. You're not going to be like, is that, whose voice is that?
Right. You're just going to know. And so, like I said, it's something that we continuously just need to work on. And even for myself, you know, every day I try to practice on not going against the grain sometimes, and just listening to it and following it, because the more that you practice on doing that, the better that you start to become in it, and then you will start to see the difference in your life, because you're like, wow, you know, because like I said, it's your compass, you know, and it's a guide to getting you to where you need to be, or situations, guiding you into making the right decisions for yourself and so forth.
And so a lot of times we think that we have to figure things out. We think we gotta be logical and analytical, and we gotta, you know, do the pros and cons list and you know, like really force things, and like we can just be stuck on a certain issue for a long time and turn like, which way should I do? I don't know what I should do. And ask you, like, what do you think I should do? When really the answer, we have the answer the whole time. Our inner guidance is telling us what to do, but we just can't hear it. And so just learning that voice by paying attention to that voice.
Right. And like I said, the more that you practice it, it's gonna be like whew, your life is just gonna do a 360 turnaround. But for the most part, just have to take the steps that's necessary, and just start practicing it, family, and you'll start to see for yourself, like, okay, I'm not crazy. but I believe that for the people though, that the more they start to do it, and they'll see it for themselves, like, wow, okay.
Yeah. I used to, work with children that live in a group home, and occasionally they would get the urge to run away, and so I would always find them.
Wow.
Yeah, because I would just kind of like put myself in their shoes, so to speak. And I would get in my car and I just turn when my car says turn. When I get the pulse, the urge to turn, I would turn. And I could, sometimes they would be like counties away.
Wow.
And I'd pull up and I'd be like, hey.
They probably like,
and they're like, how did you find me? But really that's just guidance. That's that inner guidance, that higher guidance, intuition, all that. Again, if you can take the time to learn that voice, to learn to hear that voice, to learn to hear, what does your body feel like when it's talking to you and giving you guidance, and to not confuse that voice with the voice of fear, the one that tells you, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, there you go.
I just want to be very clear on that, because to me, that is a common thing that people will say, follow your first mind, follow your first instinct, follow your gut, and all of that. But a lot of times, that's just our old thinking patterns come into play. And so those thoughts can literally block you from creating a life you would absolutely love.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true.
So thank you so much for talking to me
today. You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yes, so I hope you guys are able to wrap your mind around the whole idea that our thoughts aren't always right. Like a lot of times we want to believe that the way we think, like that's just the truth and that's just the way it is, and especially if your family thinks like that, your friends think like that, then you're like, I got all kinds of people that will support what I'm saying is true. Of course you do. But reality, the real thing is, if you get in touch with your inner guidance will not steer you wrong, but you do have to know that voice when you hear it. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. And until then, this is our dad.
This is Steve.
Bye.